Welcome to Get to Know with me, Morgan Williams. I've been in the creative industry for over a decade and meet people in different roles every day. But here's my secret, I don't always know what it is they actually do. So here I am getting to know. Each week I sit down with industry insiders, learning what it is they actually do all day long. Whether you're trying to break into the industry, feeling a little bit lost, or just plain curious, Get to Know is here to dish out creative career insights and advice. So let's dive right into this episode. I'm so excited for today's episode as it's with one of my best friends, Alex Jordan, who's a freelance stylist. We talk all about how she became a stylist, working in-house for the likes of Next and ASOS, building contacts in the industry, assisting, and different types of jobs she picks up as a freelance stylist. If you're looking to jump into the freelance world, this is the episode for you. So I think it would be really good if we can start off with giving a bit of an introduction on who you are, but you're probably the best person to do that. So do you want to give us a bit of an introduction on who you are and what you're doing at the moment?
Yeah, sure. Okay, my name's Alex. I'm a freelance stylist. I'm based in London. I've lived here for 2.5 years, almost 3 years now. And then a year of that I've been freelance stylist, and for the last 11 years I've been full-time.
So yeah, I remember when you joined ASOS, what was that, 3 years ago then? Because obviously you moved down for that job.
Yeah, 3 years ago. So I actually got my time living in London wrong. 3.5.
Oh right, is it longer?
I don't know, the time just goes so quickly.
Yeah, it's flying. Exactly. I feel like I've known you forever. But yeah, so for everyone sort of listening, me and Alex met at ASOS. I was actually her manager at the time. She joined as a stylist. But yeah, we've become really good friends ever since. So do you want to take us back a little bit me knowing you? So how did you get into the industry? Did you always kind of know you wanted to work in this kind of industry, and where did you start off?
Yeah, sure. Okay, so directly before ASOS, I was at Next, their head office and main studios in Leicester. I was there for about 7.5 years as a stylist, but my role as a stylist within that 7.5 years changed a lot from when I first started to when I left. And I first got in there because I actually studied photography and video at uni, wanted to be a photographer. Got the first job I could in a studio, which was a styling assistant, and then just really loved styling from there and just never swayed from styling since. Like when I was younger and studying, I was so into photography in sort of like an artistic way. I was interested in fashion in terms of like shopping, but I wasn't massively into fashion. And used to buy,
so were you more like a photo art?
Yeah, that's the stuff that I liked when I was younger.
Mm-hmm.
So then there was an opening at Next for a styling assistant, and I didn't really understood what that meant at the time. This was like back in oh gosh, when was this? Well, I was 23 at the time. So it was like, 11 years ago. And I didn't really understand what a styling assistant was, didn't have any styling friends or anything like that. So I just took the job thinking, I'll see what it's like. Thought it was like an assistant role, learn the studio, and then hopefully move over into photography at some point. How it all works out, because I think when you study a subject like photography or something like that, you just without doing any sort of like work experience or maybe knowing people in the industry, you don't really know all the jobs that are like within a studio.
Exactly.
So
yeah, it's always really interesting when you actually start somewhere and you find out everything that goes into it, because I think a lot of people outside the industry, or when you're starting off, you just think, oh, it is just taking pictures and putting them online, but there's a lot more that goes into that.
Yeah, so much.
Obviously, why I've started the podcast to kind of dig into that a little bit more. But
yeah.
So you say your role at Next changed quite a lot. So you started off as the assistant. Where did you go from there, and how did that role develop over time?
So, God, I'm going to have to really think back now. So I think I was maybe like a styling assistant for, and this is just a guess, so it's definitely going to be wrong. So
Mhm.
maybe like a year and a half
Oh, not that
around that
long then.
time.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then they got rid of the assistant part, and then everyone was just stylists, and then they had senior stylists.
Mhm.
And then my role didn't really change from going to styling assistant to stylist. I guess I just started doing more model shoots as the studio was growing, because it was quite small when I first started. And then a few years in, they had a purpose-built studio, and it was like a solo standing studio. Because when I first
Okay.
started, it was just like in the back of an office kind
Yeah.
of thing. We've
Yeah.
all been there.
We've all been
Um,
there. They all start like
yeah,
that.
yeah. So then, as sort of like the business grew, myself along with all the other stylists and photographers and everyone there, their responsibilities just sort of like changed, and we just took on more work. So I guess I was then shooting a lot more different things to when I first started, but my role had stayed the same. And then in the last couple of years of me being there, my title was still stylist, but I guess it was sort of like an art direction sort of role, with the branded section of Next models, their
Cool.
model shoots. So I'd sort of like plan the shoots, create all the looks together, usually about a week in advance, brief the teams, put together little decks, and then sometimes I'd be on set styling too. Because over the course of the pandemic, that sort of like changed things, how everything worked, and I was doing that until I left in 2021.
Amazing. That sounds really fun, actually, getting to do a bit of art direction alongside like the styling part of it. Where
Yeah.
do you like look for your inspiration, especially at that point, like making all the decks? Where did you get all your references from?
So you're gonna laugh, but I used to get all of my inspiration from ASOS. Well, not all of it,
Did
but a lot of
you?
it. Yeah, yeah.
Love that.
Because we used to shoot like Nike and Adidas, and they
Yeah.
wanted to sort of like keep it quite cool and young looking. And because ASOS sell all of those kind of brands, don't
Yeah,
they? I
cool.
just would look on there to get ideas for sort of like different ways to wear that might show like the next customer back then, something a little bit different. Pinterest was another one, Instagram, but yeah, mainly sort of like ASOS, and sometimes I had to rein it in a bit because I'd get told we're
Bit
not
too.
ASOS. Yeah, and then it's
Yeah.
so funny then how I ended up.
How did that role differ from what you were doing at Next when you actually joined ASOS?
Um, so it felt so different because like I'd moved city as well. So
Yeah, of course.
um, in terms of sort of like the job role, I guess I had a lot less responsibilities than what I did at Next,
Hmm.
which was fine because I just like wanted to have a complete different change of things. So I sort of had less responsibilities in terms of I didn't have like um, a team to look after necessarily, um, and it was just like a completely different way of working because it's a lot of a faster turnaround, and just the way the business model works for the studio was
Hmm.
so different to Next.
Yeah,
So I
cool.
think it was just sort of like the biggest change I think was sort of like the pace of
Yeah,
things.
getting used to those targets.
Yeah,
And yeah,
yeah,
definitely. I know ASOS, I mean, they have got fairly high targets in the industry, but you smash it all out. Like the teams there are amazing because they really get through it
yeah,
every day
yeah.
like
I
it's
think
nothing. But I think it's always a little bit of a surprise when you do join because it is such a machine, isn't it? Like they've got it nailed.
yeah. But I think like what you said, they've got it nailed. I think what was so good about there is that there's someone in every department to help with something.
Yeah,
So if you're like
definitely.
stuck on something or if something isn't working, it quite quickly is being resolved by someone else, so then you can sort of like move on.
Yeah.
Um,
So
but
was
like
that
it's
different at Next?
um It was smaller, but not much smaller.
Okay.
But I guess we would shoot to like publication dates. So sometimes the dates would be like, I don't know, maybe like 2 months away or something like that. So if you didn't necessarily get it shot, you could like revisit it at a later date, or maybe like there were reshoots because maybe more styling became available, or maybe a new direction had gone in way with the brand, so you might wanted to look at revisited things. So I guess it was like a slower pace because there wasn't a rush to get things online sort of like that week kind of thing, if you know what I mean. So that was quite different.
Yeah, I guess ASOS is very focused on time to site. They need to get it shot and online as soon as possible, isn't it? So there's your difference.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, okay, let's look at the like day in the life of a stylist at ASOS. What did that kind of look like? So you turn up in the morning, what happens?
Chaos. No, not really. Only joking. So you'd come in, you'd go grab your rail, you'd like look at the call sheet, see what studio you're in, grab your rail of things to shoot, say hi to your team, photographer, producer, model, and then sort of like just have a look at your rail, have a look at your shoot list for that day, and then I'd always sort of like put it in order of what I would want to shoot in the morning and what I'd want to shoot in the afternoon. Take into consideration like hair and makeup changes. If you had like more casual looks, probably do those first, and then more glam looks, do those in the afternoon. And then we'd have half an hour, 45 minutes to rack up.
Yeah, I can't remember either, but it wasn't a lot of time.
It was between it was under an hour, and it was between 30 and 45 minutes to rack your rail up. So you'd go to the wardrobe, pull out all your styling bits, create your looks together, and then you start shooting. But then you'd have time after lunch to finish doing that process if you didn't do it all in the morning. You might want to revisit things like during the day. I'd probably do that a lot. Like from what I wanted first thing in the morning, I probably would then look at it in the afternoon and think, oh, actually, maybe I'd seen something at lunchtime on Instagram or something like that and thought, oh, actually, I want to put that top with blah, blah, blah instead. So then you do your shoot, and then at the end of the day, you'd have like half an hour or however long to put your styling away. And then if you had enough time, you could get your rail for the next day and get a head start.
Okay, so yeah, because you don't have a lot of time to actually rack up, would you have any inkling as to what kind of thing you're shooting on that day?
You'd know from the call sheet what the shoot type was. So say if you were on like a still life shoot or a model footwear shoot or a clothing shoot, you'd know, I guess, like the category, but you wouldn't know like specific items.
Yeah.
But I guess like you, depending on the season, you like, you might have an idea. Like if you're in the middle of winter, you'd know that you wouldn't have a bunch of sandals to shoot if you're on footwear. You probably guess like, oh, probably got boots tomorrow or something like that.
Yeah, no,
but
that
no,
makes
you didn't
sense.
actually know.
So in that morning, in your, 30 to 45 minutes when you're racking up, are you like, scrolling on Instagram trying to find like some inspo, or are you just like inspired by the clothing that's in front of you and then trying to piece that together with what's in the styling wardrobe? How did that kind of process work?
I used to have, well, I still do, but used to have sort of like folders saved. So say if I'd seen someone style like black boots a certain way, because you'd get so many of the same thing as well there. You could have a day where you'd have 40 black boots and you've got to think of 40 different ways to try and style that. So I'd have like folders saved of sort of like not basics, but something like black boot styling or jeans styling, something like that. And then whether that was on like Pinterest or Instagram or screenshots in my phone, but you've not really got time to sort of like in the morning start searching for those things. Maybe that's something you can do like during the day. So say if you've got a section of your rail that you haven't racked up yet, that you think, oh, I'll sort of like think about that later. Maybe while the model's getting changed or something like that, or a quick coffee break. I might just have like a little scroll to get some inspiration, but usually I've already got that saved in sort of like all my social apps.
Yeah.
Saved already.
No, that's a really good tip, I think, for people who are trying to break into the industry, isn't it? Like, you're always sort of thinking about it, aren't you? It's always kind of in the back of your mind, and social media is such like a big thing. You scroll, and like I do this as well, just, you know, for my, like, I am obviously not a stylist, but for certain aspects of my job, I see something and I'm like, oh, that comes in handy for, you know, whenever we might shoot earrings, for example. So I'll just save that. And I guess that's a really good way of kind of building up your knowledge base as well. And
definitely.
And just curating that inspiration.
Yeah, just like, I guess it's just like current mood boards.
Yeah.
Things and trends, because you could even like, I wouldn't even necessarily have things of like how to style jeans, but say if there was like a particular trend and it was like top half, or say if it was a particular jacket, you know, like a motor jacket, and then it was with like, I don't know, sort of like boyfriend cut jeans, I then would be like, okay, we've got a few of those kind of jeans, I'll grab some jackets and tie it into that trend rather than it being about jeans.
Yeah.
I just remembered as well, we had, what were they called? They weren't style guides, but because we had segments, we'd have sort of like mood board for each segment. So that was also like a big way to determine how we would style things, because they were already assigned to a segment.
Do you want to just explain for the listeners what a segment really means?
I was just going to say, for the listeners, would you like to explain what a segment is?
I mean, it's basically like a customer profile, isn't it? It's who that customer is, because, I mean, just take us, like, we've got very different styles, personal styles. Like, you're a lot more into colour than I am. You'll try out like different prints and, you know, things that may be a little bit more. I'm just thinking like that Ganni butterfly bag is never something that I would buy, even though I can appreciate it's a nice bag, but you absolutely love it. And stuff like that is what your kind of style kind of encapsulates, whereas I'm a lot more like minimal, capsule wardrobe,
modern looks,
tailored kind of is what I go for anyway.
So definitely,
you know, it's kind of like that type of customer. And then it also kind of includes what that customer does. So like, you know, like take the clean girl aesthetic. Like that girl is dressed in like athleisure to run her errands, but she always looks like very, you know, clean and done, like hair and makeup. She'll go and get a matcha tea with her little dog, go to a Pilates class, and like all of that. And that is what makes up the segments, basically. So
exactly.
Yeah,
like
it's
the whole
so
like persona of somebody.
Yeah, like you've got that idea of who that person is, so you know what kind of things they would like to wear, isn't it?
Yeah, and they very much sort of like embody certain influences.
Yes.
So you could look at an outfit and think, oh, that's definitely like, I'm just going to use Molly May as an example, just because that's the first name that came to my head. But you could think like, oh, that's quite like a Molly May sort of like outfit. So yeah, they would do that. Which was like so useful, because you could like then see something and be like, right, I know exactly who that customer is, and I know where she's going, what she's doing, what she's wearing. So then that sort of like process made it a lot easier for you time wise.
Yeah, definitely. So alongside like all the model shoots at ASOS, you obviously did still life as well, and I know in particular like you loved and were really good at the beauty still life.
Oh yeah.
Do you want to talk us through like a day a day in the life of a stylist on a beauty still life set?
Yeah, so you'd get your box, because it wouldn't be a rail. You'd get your box of things that you were shooting, and you'd sort out what would need swatches and what didn't. So I used to love doing this so much. Like it'd be like eyeshadow palettes, lipstick, anything, any that sort of like makeup and skincare kind of thing. It'd be that. And then I'd make up like loads of little boards with colorama on them, and you'd have like a little toolkit. So I'd get like my little toolkit out, get all my boards prepped. The photographer would take like the main shot of it, because then you would like absolutely destroy it.
Yeah.
And like pick it all out and do like swooshes and like break the powders and stuff down, and that was just so much fun. I love doing that.
Yeah, I love those pictures as well.
I've only done that once since I've left as well.
Oh, really? Just once?
Yeah, that was with you.
Ah,
Mm-hmm.
so you obviously took the leap into freelance. Was it last year or was it the year before?
No, it was last year. It was February, like the end of Jan, beginning of February 2023. Yeah.
What made you take that leap into freelance life? Because you've obviously worked for some pretty big brand names before that. So yeah, why the change?
I mean, there are like quite a few factors into why I wanted to go freelance. Like, I think when I took the job at ASOS, like I loved working there and I made like such good friends there, but I knew I wasn't going to be there for as long as what I was at Next.
Mm-hmm.
And then I thought it's sort of like a stepping stone from like moving from Leicester to London, and then sort of like stay there for a couple of years until like it felt like the time to move on. And I was looking at full-time jobs, but there wasn't anything that I was really like interested in, and I didn't want to leave to do like the same thing somewhere else. I kind of wanted a change, but still stay within sort of like the styling world.
Yeah.
And then my boyfriend is freelance photographer, and he'd been freelance since we left Leicester. So he was like, "You just do it. You're gonna love it." And he was like so supportive, and because it's like such a scary thing to leave a secure full-time job and go freelance, especially with us both being freelance. Like it felt like high risk, but definitely high reward as well. So I've been like really lucky, and I've had like such a good year at a time where the industry was like quite quiet for freelancers. But definitely was worth taking a risk. It's been so much fun.
Good. No, I'm really glad that you're thriving in your freelance life.
Oh, thank you.
So talk to us about like clients that you've built. Obviously, you work with me at Fenwick quite a lot. But what other clients do you have, and how do you go about like getting the clients as well?
So a lot of my work has been through contacts that I had made whilst I was like ASOS. So whether they are like freelance or people who have left like yourself. So a lot of my work has been sort of like through people that I know, or sort of like maybe we have like a friend in common or like a colleague in common kind of thing.
Yeah.
But then I have had a few jobs where maybe I've been recommended, which I guess is sort of the same kind of thing.
Yeah, it's all about the network, isn't it?
Yeah. But then I've also had jobs where I have been that very annoying person, constantly emailing the same person until I get a response. But cold calling, annoyingly, doesn't get you like all the jobs, because like there's so many, the industry is like so saturated. Trying to get jobs where people don't know you and you're just cold calling is quite hard, because everyone knows everyone in this industry. As you know, we all got like a connection to someone somewhere.
Yeah.
So naturally people are just going to go with people that they know or like trust. Like I think that's I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing, because I guess like coming from someone in your kind of position, if you want a certain person for a job and you know that they can do it and you trust them, it's not as risky as going with someone like completely new.
Yeah.
So
yeah, definitely. How important then do you think like your portfolio is if a lot of work that you get is actually through networking?
I think maybe you could answer that, because I don't know. I always have this like struggle with my portfolio in terms of like, do I want the work in there that is like super creative and like fun and sort of like visually appealing in there, or do I sort of want like the e-com sort of like stripped back things? But I guess like it depends on your client, is that you just have to tailor your portfolio for your client. Obviously, like if it's a luxury e-com brand, you don't want sort of like all your fast fashion or still life. Obviously, like your portfolio has to make sense for the client. I was going to say I always send like a collection of things. So I'll send like because a lot of studios do still life and model, and if you don't know what they want you for, if they've not said, oh, we're looking for still life model, I'll send a still life portfolio, a model portfolio, and then I'll send my website too, which has got sort of like some more fun stuff on there.
I
So
think
I
that's
think like
perfect.
if you just send but not to overwhelm someone. Obviously you don't want to be sending like 10 PDFs or something like that.
Yeah, you like I wouldn't look at 10.
Yeah.
I mean, you're sending 2. I might only look at the second one if I like the first one.
Yeah, that's true actually. Yeah.
So,
That's a good point.
It's one of those things you've kind of got to build a little bit of a relationship. Like when you are reaching out to someone as a cold call, I think as well, like do that little bit of research that you know what they look after. Like the amount of messages I get about creative, and I'm like, that's not me. If I think you're really good and I've taken the time to actually look at whatever you sent me, then I'll pass your name over, but I'm not the one getting you that job, you know?
Yeah, definitely.
So I think put that work in. If you really want the job, like just take that extra, I don't know, 10. I mean, if it's on LinkedIn, it's literally a couple of minutes, isn't it? Just to look at their LinkedIn profile and look at what they're doing. But yeah.
I think that comes from people like copying, pasting messages.
Yeah.
So they've just like maybe seen like your name and that you're a manager there.
You're
so
there,
they've just like pasted the message that they've sent to another studio manager. But yeah, like you definitely aren't going to get a reply or anything because you can tell, can't you, when something's been like copied and pasted a message.
Yeah, and people only have like enough time as well. You know, there's only a limited amount of time in the day, and they're all very busy people. So to actually take a minute to look at a PDF or a website takes a couple of minutes out of their day that they might not have, and to respond to a message as well is another couple of minutes. So even though it seems like a really small thing to reply to someone, like I was always that person, felt really bad if I didn't reply to everyone, but just as I've gone through my career and got more experience and gained more responsibility, it's like actually I don't actually have enough time to do all that kind of admin as well. But I guess from your side, when you don't get those responses, obviously that can be quite disheartening. But how do you deal with that? You said you've been quite pushy on some of the jobs, so how do you manage it?
I guess like you've got to not take it personally and just understand that like exactly what you just said, people only have so much time in a day, and as much as you can think like, oh, can't they even just reply to me, you're probably like one of 100 people. So even though it might take you 10 seconds to write out a reply, sorry, it's not what we're looking for, keep you in mind, all the best, that will take like 10 seconds to write out. But if you've got like 100 people to get back to, so I think you've got to know not to take it personally, because it could be for a number of reasons why someone's not got back to you. Maybe they found someone quicker, maybe you were too late, it's not what you're looking for, maybe they've not even read your message, maybe the job's changed or it's been cancelled or something like that. So I think I try not to take it personally, and probably I would, like, if I'm being honest, maybe like 10% of the time, if it's something that I really want, obviously, like, I'll be gutted and be like, oh, why was it my portfolio, was it this?
How do you network? Is it from being on those jobs, or do you message people on social media, or what's your main ways of doing that?
I think everyone's are so different, but mine are I'll follow people on Instagram and sort of like try and interact with their posts and stories and things, if it's like relevant, that. But I think just like keeping up to date on like Instagram, LinkedIn, commenting on things on LinkedIn, and even just sort of like resharing and reposting things on there for your network. And yeah, meeting people on jobs as well is a big one.
I remember being in like tons of Facebook groups, which is probably really irrelevant these days because Facebook isn't as popular anymore.
Obsolete.
But yeah, I wonder if there's, you know, those types of things on like Instagram, or if you just put a post out on Instagram, like a story, to find those people. Because I remember there was a lot of what was it called? There was like an online website. I can't remember what it was called now, but it was like where people would post ads basically for like time for print photo shoots, you know, the free shoots that you would do, and everyone would get the images, and it's just building your portfolios out. But how did you go about doing, I guess, did you do a lot of external shoots to Next when you were just trying to build your portfolio, and just with, I guess, photographers and other people that you'd met on jobs?
No, I didn't actually. Like, looking back, like, I wished I'd have done that, especially when I was like a lot younger, but not that matters. But when I was there, I was there for so long that I kind of like at one point thought maybe I was just gonna stay there. So I never sort of like did anything for myself outside of work, which is actually like so important if eventually you are going to go freelance.
Yeah.
But even just important to keep your creativity alive, you need to be doing those things.
Yeah, you're doing a lot of it now though, aren't you?
Yeah, and I think that's because I'm living with someone who's like so creative and also freelance, and like what you're maybe not able to do in your sort of like e-commerce jobs, like it's just great to like do something for yourself, like in forms of like test shoots is what we're talking about, isn't it? That kind of thing. But that's like such a good way to like meet new people. Like both of us have made like friends through that, like makeup artists and stuff like that. And you know, like if you can get them on for a paid job, or if they can recommend you for a paid job, then that's a bonus. But like when we were talking about networking, what I wanted to say as well was that, you know, even if nothing comes out of networking in terms of like paid jobs, like it's nice just to like make friends and know people in the industry, because like they're going through what you're going through, like as a freelancer, so they like understand like maybe things that you might be like worried about, or you know, that kind of thing. So
yeah, definitely.
like a support network as well as like a working network.
Yeah, definitely. It's definitely helpful, especially when you're freelance, I think, to have that network around you to help you out. So, okay, as a freelance, how do your jobs sort of differ to what you did in ecom? I know that you still do work in ecom sometimes, just on a freelance basis, but what other kind of things have come up? I know you've done like some TV and music videos and stuff. So can you talk us through all the different types of styling jobs that you've had since you have gone freelance?
Yeah, so I've been quite lucky that I've done like an array of things like in my first year, which I wasn't necessarily expecting. And that's been like such an eye-opening experience. And I feel like in this last year alone, being freelance, because I've done so many different things to what I'd done in the past, I feel like I've just learned like so much in this last year than what I ever have like being full-time. So that in itself like is so interesting.
Yeah, that's a massive plus.
If I'd have done this 10 years ago, like what would I be doing now?
Everything's always good in hindsight.
I know, yeah. Not that I'm like looking in the past, but it's just an interesting thought. So I think one of the biggest things that I've loved doing this year has been like assisting a stylist, which I'd always sort of like had wanted to do, because again, like it's great to like learn from someone and meet new people, but I didn't expect sort of like the depth of variety of jobs that I'd be doing whilst working with her. And she's amazing, like I love her, she's great, and we've like become good friends too, so that's so nice.
What's her name? Give her a shout out.
Kula. Shout out to Kula. She'll love that. And yeah, I've like assisted her in like TV, which has been a complete new experience, like so different because obviously I've just been working with like stills and video, and like TV is like so different, and I've only had one job in TV, so I guess even like the jobs would differ from place to place as well. I've worked with her for a magazine cover, and then she was sick one time and she called me the night before and asked me to cover her on a music video, which was so scary because I hadn't done that before, but obviously just took it all in my stride, said yes, I'll do that, no problem. And then that was like such a great experience too. So and then I'm actually working with her next week doing a bit of e-com as well.
Nice.
So that I've not done that with her before, so that'll be fun.
Yeah, that's cool. Can you talk us through how like music video styling might be different from model styling?
So as the stylist, which wasn't my part in this, like you have got like a relationship with the talent. Maybe you've like worked on jobs together before, you might even be friends, known each other a long time, something like that, or it might even be obviously the first time you've worked with them. And then you will get to know them as a person, what they like, what they don't like. And then I guess either each stylist is going to be different. They might have like a capsule wardrobe in their own studio or sort of like office space where they pull from for VIP styling. Or you would just be emailing sort of like PR companies to try to get pieces for them for an event or for a music video. And obviously like brands want you to use them, so I think like reaching out to PR and making relationships and establishing connections within PR is like really important for that kind of role. And then you have like a try on session where you show the talent what you've got, they try it on, take pictures so you remember what they like, what they don't like, make notes, that kind of thing. And then I guess like the event or the video or the shoot or whatever it is would come, and then you'd have your rail of things, and then you just go through the rail. But even on the day when you've decided beforehand what you like and don't like, when I was on the music video, there were still sort of like last minute changes from the talent. So I think you've got to be able to like think on your feet, adapt. And even though you're like the stylist, sort of like your job is to make them look good and feel good.
Yeah.
So you just sort of got to bear those things in mind, kind of thing.
Yeah, I guess they could turn up on the day and, I don't know, feel bloated maybe. So it's like,
Exactly,
I actually don't want to wear that with skin tight dress anymore.
Which, like, I think, like, being human and being a woman, obviously we can all understand those things. Like, so, obviously you can't force someone to wear something, which is so different to sort of like e-com where they are there for the day and like they've got to wear that, whether they like it or not. Sort of like, it sounds bad, but their opinion of it doesn't come into consideration because it's not them that we're selling, it's the product. Whereas when you do like VIP and celebrity, they are doing the selling.
Yeah, that's such an interesting way to think about it, isn't it? You're not selling the clothes then, you're selling, I guess the clothes are a supporting part of what you're trying to sell.
Yeah, but when they're like famous or, I don't know, a person of interest or an influencer, and if it's for a music video or a story or magazine or whatever, obviously they are the ones who are drawing attention to the output of what you're making.
Yeah.
So it's like it's definitely a different way of thinking. But again, like that's something that I've learned since assisting. It's been so interesting.
Yeah, amazing. So what celebs have you worked with since you've been freelance?
Just two.
Oh
wait, no, actually. I've worked with Lasana Lynch for Amazing Magazine, which was so much fun and so lovely. And she was incredible, so nice. And then did a music video for Ella Henderson, and then working on TV. I've been working for a sports channel, so I've met lots of football legends, football heroes.
That's cool.
Which some of them I know, but like embarrassingly, football's not my biggest passion. So I don't know everyone there, but I'm guessing that they are like a huge deal because everybody else knows them.
Well, actually, that I was going to ask, do you think it's helpful in a way when you don't actually really know who they are?
100%.
Yeah. Do you get starstruck
Yeah.
when, like, I can imagine with like Ella Henderson especially, I'd probably be a bit like,
yeah, because like I think especially if it's like someone you like admire and look up to, like then other things start to come into play which aren't necessarily relevant. Like so long, like obviously you always want to make a good impression regardless, but I guess like when you look up to the person, like your feelings in that job are like a bit different. So with that come like more nerves and more anxiety, I guess. But when you do those kind of roles, like you can't think like that. I don't think you sort of like get into a bit of like you can get into like a rabbit hole of getting like a bit nervous and stuff. And like but then I think like it's just exciting as well as being a bit nervous about it. And like it's fine to be nervous about things because
I think everyone's nervous, especially like I can imagine that music video that Kula was sick for, and it was like your first time doing it completely alone, you know.
Yeah.
That's
and I had no involvement in that beforehand as well. So like
nerve-wracking situation.
I guess like even if it wasn't like a music video, to cover for someone on a shoot, you hadn't done any of the prep, you didn't know anything about it beforehand, and you're just like stepping in for someone. But I mean, Kula's great. Like I spent like the evening in her studio, and she like prepped me so much, and she was like, you know, any problems, ring me, that kind of thing. So she was like so supportive, as she always is. And you can have everything and be prepped, but then you can still be like a little bit nervous.
Yeah.
Like I text you in the cab on the way there, didn't I?
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm so nervous. But again, I think that's just because it was like something new. And I always do this thing where I'll try not to think about the nervousness until like I need to. And usually that's like when I'm in the cab or 10 minutes before. And then I'm like, oh my God, why didn't I, try and mentally prepare for this before? But then I think otherwise I'd just be nervous for like 3 days beforehand, as opposed to the hour cab ride or whatever.
Yeah, it doesn't help being nervous for like 3 days at all.
No. Another thing that surprised me, that was filmed in November, sort of like mid to end of November, for like a Christmas single. So like the turnaround on that was like crazy.
Yeah, really quick.
Who were involved of like the production side of it. But yeah, no, that was really fun.
Can we talk a bit about how you met Kulo as well?
Yeah, so we were friends on Instagram, and we had mutual followers and stuff. And then I've got a friend who works in PR, and when I first went freelance, she kindly gave me 3 or 4 stylist emails and contact details to just meet up and like go for a coffee. And she was someone that I emailed like back in January last year. And we were emailing back and forward, but then like, she was busy and I was busy, that we never actually met. And then she randomly reached out to me one day on Instagram and asked me if I was free for a job, which I wasn't, sadly. And then that happened about 3 times. She'd like reached out, asked me if I was free. I wasn't, which I was so gutted about because obviously I really wanted to work with her. And then what was going through my mind at the time was that, oh, she hasn't met me. I can't keep saying no because eventually she'll just like forget about me
Mm-hmm.
or, move on to the next person kind of thing. And then, as fate would happen, one day she messaged me, "Are you free tomorrow for the magazine with Lasana Lynch?" And I was free. And then we sort of like met up. Turns out we live 10 minutes away from each other, which never happens
Wow,
in
that's a
London.
coincidence.
Yeah. And then it was only after that shoot as well, I'd realised that a freelancer friend that I'd met whilst I was working full-time at ASOS had actually put me forward for that, which was so sweet. Like, I didn't realise that at the time. So yeah, so that's how I met her, and then we had like a great time on that shoot, and then I've just been like assisting her on jobs here and there since then, and that was end of summer last year, so maybe July, August time, I think.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah.
And you're still working with her now, so that's obviously paid off, definitely.
Yeah. And like, obviously it helps that we get on so well, and yeah, I just love working with her. She's the best. She's so sweet and so talented. Like, her knowledge is like crazy as well. She's great.
Good. So, okay, we're coming up to the end of our time together. It's been a really good conversation though. What would be your top tip for someone trying to break into the industry right now?
I don't know. I think I would say, if you can, get a full-time job in a studio or a part-time job in a studio. Anything that sort of like interests you, or if it doesn't interest you, I would take it and see how it goes, because you might end up liking it, or like what we said earlier, you might come across a different role that you might not have known existed or known that you had passion for.
Mm-hmm.
And then make friends and connections from there, and then just see how you feel. Like, I don't know, I would constantly I'd probably assess things like, at like 6 months increments, like, am I happy? Do I like this? Yes, let's keep going.
Mm-hmm.
Or I'm not sure, maybe I want to work somewhere else, or maybe I want to go freelance because I've got a good connection. I think, like, as much as you go with the flow, but then also just like have times where you just want to assess, like, am I going in the right direction for me, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And everyone's journey is different, so do what's best for you.
Yeah. What feels right for you.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And where can people find you? Where can they follow you?
Instagram is Alexandra Jordan Stylist, and then .com for my website.
Amazing.
That's where you can find me.
Great. Well, thank you so much for your time today. It was so good to chat. Thanks.
I know. Thanks for having me. It's been so much fun.
Thanks for listening to Get to Know. Finding out about all the different types of styling roles Alex does as a freelance was so interesting. From fashion to music videos to TV to beauty shoots, every type of shoot requires something different that you need to be able to deliver as a stylist. If you loved this episode, I'd really appreciate it if you would rate, review and subscribe. If you want to learn more, follow us on TikTok and Instagram at the Get to Know podcast, and I'll catch you the same time next week, where I'm getting to know Harry Rose, the founder of Darwin Studio, a photography agency that represents young and exciting storytellers. If you're interested in a career path as an agent, this is the one for you.